Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right into the 5 whys for personal habits. We're pulling some incredible insights from Thomas Alathia's guide, 12 Steps to a Good Life, and applying them directly to our own daily routines.
So let's play psychological detective for a minute. Why is it so incredibly hard to break a bad habit? You know the drill. We set our alarms, we make our grand resolutions, and yet, boom, we find ourselves right back where we started. In the source text, the author refers to this as the perennial struggle. It's this deep, lifelong tension within every person. We end up chasing distractions, temporary highs, and numbing behaviors just because we feel an invisible weight or a quiet discontent. And we usually think our inability to change is just a personal failing, right? But as we're going to see, it's actually a fundamental misunderstanding of how our minds work. See, most of us try to force change using 2 really blunt instruments: sheer willpower and heavy self-criticism. We try to whip ourselves into shape with all these shoulds, have-tos, and need-tos. But the author points out a painful truth. Relying on willpower and self-criticism consistently fails us. Fighting our bad habits with sheer force and guilt is a totally broken mental model. It's literally like trying to stop a moving train by standing in front of it and yelling. When your willpower inevitably runs out, and it will, self-criticism kicks in as our backup plan. And let's be honest, trying to guilt yourself into lasting change has roughly a 0% success rate. It just causes unnecessary suffering and traps us in a self-sabotaging cycle of procrastination and panic.
Willpower alone isn't enough because of one specific number: 800. That is the weight of the gorilla you are currently giving piggyback rides to. The source material uses this fantastic metaphor. Your conscious mind rides on the shoulders of an 800-pound gorilla, which represents your unconscious mind. I mean, you can make all the conscious commitments you want, but nothing actually changes until that 800-pound gorilla says so. The unconscious mind is powerful, it's fast, and it is hyper-energy efficient. It loves habits because they don't require any conscious thought. It takes an immense amount of energy and persistence to change the direction of an 800-pound gorilla that has already made up its mind about where it wants to go.
To get that gorilla to turn around, we really have to look beneath the water. Think of human behavior like a giant iceberg. We spend almost all of our time obsessing over the surface symptoms, the visible actions like procrastination, overeating, doom scrolling, or skipping the gym. But those are literally just the tip of the ice. Beneath the surface are the hidden drivers. Our needs are filtered through these deep layers of unconscious beliefs, attitudes, and old childhood rules that distort our reality. These hidden drivers, like a fear of failure or a fear of rejection, they are what's actually steering that 800-pound gorilla. If we only attack the surface symptom, well, the hidden driver simply finds a shiny new symptom to replace it. So how do we find these hidden drivers? Well, first, we have to stop rushing to fix things. The author quotes Albert Einstein, who famously said, "If I had an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions." We need to pivot our narrative away from immediate action and toward deep, deliberate analysis. We're so desperate for a quick fix that we end up spending our 55 minutes trying random solutions to problems we haven't even properly defined yet. To truly change, we need to spend our time investigating the actual root cause.
And that brings us to our primary investigative tool. The 5 whys is a method originally developed for business and manufacturing to find the root cause of a mechanical or systemic failure. You basically just ask why repeatedly, usually about 5 times, until you hit the actual root of the problem. But what the source text does so brilliantly is adapt this industrial tool into a profoundly personal psychological framework. It helps individuals move beyond those surface symptoms and address the underlying emotional trauma or fear that's driving their behavior. It sounds simple, but as you're about to see, it is incredibly revealing.
Section 1. Case Study. The snooze button. Let's see what happens when we apply this tool to a super mundane morning habit. Okay, so we're going to act as the detective here and drill down into the unconscious mind. Step 1. Ask yourself, why am I always late in the morning? Well, because I hit snooze too many times. Okay, step 2. Why do I hit snooze? Because I am still tired. All right, step 3. But why am I still tired? Because I stayed up way too late scrolling my phone in bed. Step 4. Why do I scroll my phone? Because I want to avoid going to sleep. And finally, step 5, the absolute most important question: why do I want to avoid sleep? Because I do not want to face tomorrow yet. Just let that sink in for a second. Notice the profound shift here. We went from a seemingly harmless, irritating habit to uncovering a deep, heavy emotional truth. This snooze button isn't laziness at all. It is existential dread. By asking why 5 times, we descended right through the layers of the psyche. The surface symptom was just the alarm clock, but the hidden trauma or fear was a deep anxiety about the future, about the demands of the coming day. You can't cure existential dread with a louder alarm clock or a bit more willpower. You can only cure it by facing what you are actually afraid of.
Section 2. Disrupting the cycle. Let's explore how to actually find a path forward out of this. Now that we've defined the problem, we can disrupt it by looking at the exact machinery of our habits. The text outlines the negative behavior cycle in 5 stages. First, an event acts as a trigger. Second, you have thoughts and feelings in reaction to that trigger. Third, you engage in a behavior. This is the habit itself. Fourth, you receive a reward, or what the author calls a payoff for that behavior. And fifth, you return to normal until the very next trigger. We often get stuck because we only focus on trying to change stage 3, the behavior. But the secret to breaking the loop entirely, well, it actually lies in stage 4.
That absolutely crucial point is discovering your hidden payoff. The author explains that our character defects and bad habits are very often just coping mechanisms. They were actually developed to protect us and help us survive emotional pain. Even the most destructive habits offer some kind of payoff. Hitting snooze offers the payoff of temporarily delaying a stressful tomorrow. Scrolling your phone offers the payoff of distraction from anxiety. These aren't moral failings, guys. They are your unconscious mind's misguided attempts to keep you safe and relieve stress. We have to view the payoff in a totally neutral, clinical manner. Once you realize what reward your mind is actually seeking, you can finally find a healthier way to achieve it.
And this gives us a really clear choice in how we live our lives, numbing the pain versus naming the root cause. When we rely on our bad habits, we are really just numbing the pain. As the source notes, suppressing painful thoughts through compulsive behavior offers short-term relief, sure, but it prevents long-term healing. The pain is still right there, waiting. But when we use tools like the 5 whys, we name the root cause. We take away its hidden power. We empower ourselves, because a named problem is a solvable problem. It shifts us completely from living reactively to living intentionally. I want to leave you with a direct challenge today based on the insights from 12 Steps to a Good Life. Think about that one frustrating habit you cycle through every single day. You know the one you keep trying to fix with willpower and self-criticism. Take a few minutes today, sit down, and ask yourself why 5 times. What is your snooze button hiding? What is that 800-pound gorilla actually running away from? Find that hidden driver, and you might just change your life. Thanks for joining me on This Explainer, and I'll see you next time.